All right, I think we could probably go ahead and get started, Heidi. And just so everyone knows, we are recording the session today so that it's available for others later on. So just want to welcome everyone to the EDGE-inar job panel that we have planned for this afternoon. So we've got some great folks that are going to be sharing some of their experiences and expertise with us. And my name is Carolyn Adams. I'm the owner of North Point Geographic Solutions out of Duluth, Minnesota. And our company has been working with EDGE and the founder, Keith Searles, for about a year now, and very excited to be able to host these panel opportunities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith to give a little bit more information about EDGE. Take it away, Keith.
Okay, welcome everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, I'm coming to you. All right, great. I just had to check. I'm coming to you live from the Philippines, so hopefully the connection is good. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. We're really excited to have you today. We think we're going to have a great panel discussion and really dive into some things that we need to talk about. And that's what EDGE is all about. It's about exposure. It's about opportunities. It's about having these discussions. It's about trying to move the needle in diversity, equity, and inclusion in our beloved industry, the geospatial industry. And we're just trying to do our humble part to make this easier for folks who want to do the right thing, to connect people, network folks, to take the small businesses and folks from diverse communities and disenfranchised communities and be able to connect them with companies who want to hire people in a more intentional way and increase their diversity and their equity and inclusion within their organizations, and to look for partnering opportunities between small and larger companies, and to also see if we can share various events, scholarships, any sort of opportunity to move the needle and to make it easier for everyone to be aware and to do their part. So we'll share a little bit more about how you can do that, but that's what EDGE is all about. So as the founder, I'm glad to have you. And really what I really want is to get the entire industry to be part of this movement and for everyone to do their small part. And if everyone is towing the line, doing that together, we can pull a large ship. So that's what we're trying to do.
All right, thank you, Keith. And as Keith mentioned, there are some ways that that we are looking for getting folks involved. Heidi is going to drop some links into the chat. So we do have an EDGE website. The EDGE website has some information, more information on there. And I think Keith is going to mention a little bit later about kind of the job piece of that that website. And then we also have a LinkedIn group that we encourage folks to join that. Additionally, we have a survey that we encourage everyone to take. Again, Heidi's going to drop that link into the chat, and that just asks a few questions and also gives you some information if you would like to join any of our EDGE subcommittees. So we've got a number of different subcommittees that that we ask folks to join in and volunteer some of their time and expertise. It's very minimal, so we're not asking a ton of time, but the more people that we have that can get involved and be a part of this, you know, I think the more we can move the needle, as Keith mentioned. So with that, definitely feel free as we're going through with the panel today to ask questions in the chat. Feel free to drop those in. I'll be fielding those questions and asking the panelists. If you have a specific panelist that you would like to answer a certain question, just note that in when you drop your question in the chat. And with that, I would like to go ahead and have our panelists introduce themselves. So the first one that I've got is Jessica Touchard. And Jessica, if you can introduce yourself and your company and what your role is there, and if there's any other information that you'd like to share, please go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah, my name is Jessica Touchard. I'm with GeoSearch. GeoSearch, we're a geospatial recruiting firm. We've been in business since 1989 and work with many GIS, GPS, photogrammetry, remote sensing type clients. And we have a robust candidate pool. We're always looking for ways that we can expand that for obviously in this case diversity, but just talent pool in general. I've been with this company for over 20 years. It was founded by my dad in 1989 and I joined him in 1999. So we've been together quite some time doing that. And so we are a family-based business, but we work nationally and internationally with these firms.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. The next one that we have is Jamie Garrett.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Jamie Garrett. I'm with Axum Geospatial, and I'm a talent acquisition manager here and been recruiting for the company for almost 10 years now, which seems hard to believe. We are a pure play geospatial firm with offices around the US in 3 states currently, very distributed workforce, and we focus on all things GIS in the federal, state, and local government, and also the private sectors, which means we are always actively recruiting and looking for great talent.
Excellent. Thank you, Jamie. And our third panelist that we have is Girmay or G, Araya, and please feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Girmay Araya, or you can remember G, it's fine. I'm CEO and founder of New Light Technologies. We do a lot of geospatial work, but based in DC, an information technology services company, working in state and local, federal, as well as some NGOs, international organizations. We've been in business for about 20 years, 21 years now. My background is a GIS analyst, so this is personal to me. I've been doing this since college in the early 90s, and so any opportunity to evangelize on that and help individuals go through the journey of becoming geospatial industry folks, I'm always happy to be a participant. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you all. So with that, just a reminder again, please feel free to drop any questions into the chat. And if you have a specific panelist that you would like to address that question, please note that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith to ask our questions. Or Keith, did you want me to ask the first one, or are you good?
Yeah, I can take it from here.
All right.
So let's just jump right in so we can make the most of our time here. So if you can all maybe chime in on this one. What are some of the most difficult parts of diversifying your employee base, and what aspects seem to flow the most seamlessly? So give us that contrast. Where do you see the most challenges, and what part seems to happen the most naturally or seamlessly?
Well, I think what's helped us here at Axum Geospatial, and Axum Geospatial is 3 companies coming together, formerly GIS Inc., CMC, and TSG. One of the things that has worked very well for us is recruiting a remote workforce. So being able to recruit, all over the US has definitely been seamless and helped us with our recruiting needs. As well as diversifying our workforce. I'm sure most of you are experiencing that, with post-pandemic and the world opening up to more remote workforce.
Yeah, one of the challenges we've seen in most of the organizations that we work with over the years has been when it comes to diversity within their workforce is location. It is, they're kind of at the mercy of their, geography a bit. And although some companies were willing to relocate one person, from a different side of the country or something, it wasn't a common thing to do. So I think that remote work has really helped. Also, some of the groups that we're involved in are very active in reaching out to communities, women in GIS and other types of organizations like that that are helping to steer people in that direction. And then another thing we've helped organizations do is look at their job descriptions, look at their recruiting efforts and how they may word things generally to attract the right people as well, and to utilize different terms and different terminologies. Within that, geomatics, for instance, is used in Europe a lot more than geospatial. So just some, little terms that we sometimes can adjust to speak to different communities.
I'd say a challenge is always finding people who are eligible for federal background and security clearances and so on. So that's always a big challenge. And also those customers tend to want people in person, but I think the pandemic has kind of broken that apart, and we are seeing more ability to work remotely. So I think that's an upside from what we see.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and whoever wants to chime in on this one, you can. So just to kind of come behind that a little bit more and drill down one more level, what are some current practices that you're doing within your organizations, and what are some things that you may be leaning towards doing in the future but haven't quite gotten there yet? And this can be overall within the DEI space and as it pertains to hiring.
So one thing that we are employing is just joining organizations that have opportunities like that, in terms of, like I mentioned, the Women in GIS. I'm in a Women in Drones group. Anything that we can find that's particularly targeting the non-traditional STEM person. And then also, like I mentioned before, reviewing those job descriptions, making sure managers aren't putting a laundry list in there. Women are less likely to apply, for instance, if they don't meet 100% of the qualifications. So we want to make sure that the qualifications listed are really needed and not something that they're just hoping for to find. And so those are the types of things that we are communicating. And then, of course, working with any organization on, can this be remote? Can we advertise it in different areas of the country? Are we able to communicate with different geographies?
Great. Just to interject here, if I could remind everyone to please put yourself on mute during the call here, unless you're speaking. And then Jessica, a quick follow-up question here is, do you have any good resources that you'd recommend for improving job descriptions or postings?
For approving them?
Or improving.
Oh, improving.
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head, but I can look at some of the guidelines we've read over the past. I didn't prepare any, but there are articles out there. I think we may even have a couple of blogs on our website that pertain to that. So I can certainly kind of see what resources I can find that we've drawn from.
There's a lot of, if you just Google it, there's a lot of HR resources that will pop up, things like Workable. Indeed actually has decent suggestions about your position descriptions and kind of keeping it minimal, like Jessica's saying, a page if you can. But if you just Google it, there's a lot of resources out there that'll automatically pop up on how to create, a good job description that's not going to scare people away and draw in candidates.
Yeah, I think the job description side of it is about being particular about what you're trying to get in terms of hiring someone. On the resume side, I'm not sure if that was part of the question, good resources for resume improvements. I would say start with having a really good CV approach. A CV, a curriculum vitae, is a way to really, whether it's 1 or 10 pages, all your history, your work history, your education history, your training should be readily available, so that when you're responding with a resume, you extract the relevant parts and the important parts and into a custom, rapidly customizable resume to submit. within a page or two. So I would say look at the international idea of or academia uses CVs a lot, and so having that readily available is nice.
I'm noticing a comment in the chat about salary ranges being posted and that being a trend. I also love that for this purpose. There's always been a lot of secrecy in who's making what, and as we know, there's some inequities there across the board. So I think it's a hard thing sometimes, and especially in this market. This market is very competitive and for talent anyway. So it's a hard thing for companies, and I understand that they don't want to limit themselves to a particular salary range. But I think giving some kind of idea to people really helps know, what are people that have my skills making, and am I being treated fairly and all of that. I think it's really important, and I like the trend as well. But keep in mind too that some companies may stretch for you if you're the right person, but particularly in this job market. So don't always keep that as the only range that they'll go within, but as a guideline.
Great, those are all some excellent tips. And thank you for sharing that. So I myself am someone who came from a civil and transportation engineering background and was recruited internally within the organization to get into GIS and geospatial. How much success have you all seen within your organizations in terms of recruiting individuals who are currently not in the industry, but then as an alternative approach, if there is a bottleneck in finding this specialized talent that you're talking about, especially talent of a diverse ethnicity?
Yeah, we actually have stopped really emphasizing, aside from a few positions that highly require geospatial certification or very specific skills and experience. Aside from those, in general, if we're trying to hire someone to do GIS developer role, we are okay with hiring and have had good success hiring computer science folks or developers, or even if they're not computer science, developers or coders, or folks who come from visual art and design, and those are readily skills that are readily available and useful for geospatial, from cartography to doing web mapping applications. So reducing the need to be very particular about GIS where possible allows us to reach further out in hiring people who may not be traditionally a GIS background.
Yeah, it definitely helps, being able to branch outside of GIS and kind of STEM overall. We don't always have that luxury. We are, as I said, a pure geospatial company. I think around under 10% of our company is non-geospatial. But where we have seen success is with developers, for instance, and being able to hire developers that don't have a GIS background, and able to train them and ramp them up on the GIS side. That's definitely helped.
And I've seen a lot of evolution here, and that has a lot to do with our competitive job market here as well. We are third-party recruiters, so usually when somebody calls us, they're looking for the round peg in the round hole, exactly what they want. But so we don't always have the luxury either. However, I talk with students and I talk with job seekers all the time about emphasizing their soft skills, emphasizing any interest that they have in the area. Why are you looking into geospatial? Do you have some kind of personal interest there? What gives you that passion and that path? And then also there are resources like geospatial boot camps and GIS certificate programs and things like that that can augment somebody's career now and put and kind of veer them into more of the geospatial realm. So we will give them some resources on that as well.
Thank you for that. And that actually segues nicely to my next question, which is, what are suggestions that you have for students and maybe folks who are restarting their career who may come from a either traditional or non-traditional background, just overall, what are things that people can do to make themselves more attractive to as potential hires?
Typically, the entry to geospatial is as an analyst, and the analyst positions that we're trying to fill lately, I would definitely say Python is a must. Add that to your toolbox. And again, what Jessica mentioned earlier, your soft skills and being able to communicate, your passion for the industry and what you're looking to do with that. Certainly, I would advise, folks to really dig deep when it comes to, understanding their why.
For entry-level people in particular, and we work, within GIS, but we also, geospatial as a community, there are a lot of traveling, data acquisition, aerial survey type positions that really give some good understanding of our industry and where all of this data that we're using in GIS comes from. Many companies are looking for entry-level folks there, and people who are willing to travel, people who are willing to relocate, and in this environment of everything is moving remotely, somebody who's willing to come into an office and do something, you can put yourself ahead of the game right now, particularly if you're entry level. We're kind of counseling people on that. If you are a new graduate and you are looking at a career in this, it is a great idea to be in an office where you can learn and where you can talk with people. And obviously not all companies even offer that right now, but most of them do. And it's a great idea to put yourself in that position if at all possible.
Yeah, my add to people who are transitioning from industry from into GIS work, or new folks starting in the industry, because I don't want to say out of college, because there are many pathways into GIS. Military is a brilliant one if you're in the military and you've had some experience there. Regardless of all of that, I think participating in the industry, even without having a job, is very possible. Organizations like ERISA, the Urban and Regional Information, ERISA. ERISA has some great ways for you to participate, whether it's local conferences, local chapters. ESRI has local conferences, other open source geo. In DC, there's the GeoDC group. So there's many ways to start familiarizing yourself with the industry and who participate and what kind of things people do, and make connections, because a lot of jobs still require references and or someone saying, hey, you should apply over here, or even sending you to the contacts for who's hiring. So I don't think you need to wait until you already have a position in geospatial industry to participate in the geospatial industry. And I would add that if you have a passion in an area or a skill or a capability, start adding geospatial to it. Build a portfolio, whether it's in GitHub if you're a coder, or a portfolio for visual stuff if you're a cartographer. Start showing your skills, even if you're a network engineer, and start to participate in the industry.
We do have a question that came through on the chat, and Clinton, thank you for dropping in some ideas there that kind of answer some of the questions here, but it's familiar with organizations like Women in GIS. What are some other communities that organizations can target to expose job postings to other underrepresented folks in geospatial? If so, please share. And Clinton has dropped a number of organizations in the chat there, but if any of the panelists have other thoughts or ideas, please feel free to share there.
Yeah, I would say a very important thing to do is, especially for newer folks, there's a platform called Handshake, and a lot of college students have access to that. It's a way to submit your resume to many positions. So organizations should join ways to source candidates through these agnostic platform, so they're not specifically sourcing one individual, but a school, and they will help those students find out about those positions. If you want to, for example, diversify into the African American community, HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, have a lot of them have really good geospatial academic profiles that people graduating. They may not be graduating individuals with GIS degrees, but they do take a lot of courses, and some places have really strong ones. So I would encourage, if you're in an HBCU, to reach out through their programs into some of the organizations that have that. Yeah, and I see that Clinton posted this on. There's a nice web app to show you all of them.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I don't know if Keith, this would be a good segue into talking about what EDGE is doing in that regard.
Yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
Okay, well, I can just mention that, yeah, so part of the mission with EDGE is to connect employees to employers and connecting businesses with each other. And so we are working on an updated platform to do that. It is not live yet, but it should be coming soon. And I don't know if Keith, you have any more information about it right now, but that we are hoping that will be another platform that can do some of that connecting for folks as well.
Yeah, so there's kind of two main hubs within EDGE. There's a website that you mentioned. The first and main part of it should be live next week, and that's on the job connections side of things. That's resume boards, that's job opportunities, and being able to do that matchmaking. And then we'll also look to have tools on the business partnering side and just a board for various events and anything in this arena where folks should be aware of. So that'll be a third portion. And then we also have a LinkedIn site that I encourage everyone to join if you're not already. It'll be another place to communicate, to share ideas, to share best practice, and to just be aware of folks within this space. And for us, it's all about that network as another means of helping people to find the right opportunities and helping companies to find the right individuals. We do know that it's maybe a little bit easier on the entry level. It seems to be more difficult on the more intermediate and senior level. Jessica, in particular, love to hear you talk about, why your organization is able to get some of the leads with companies because of these issues, and then others can also chime in on any challenges or the ways you deal with that particular aspect, getting that senior and mid-level talent, particularly those with not only great technical skills and leadership capabilities, but also from a more diverse background, women or groups that are underrepresented within the geospatial field.
Well, it's tough. Like you said, it is a limited pool in all regards now. I mean, honestly, I think the best practices that that we do is just making sure that we're casting a very wide net in the beginning of any search, making sure that we're not, like I said, drilling down too far on qualifications on what we need. We need to be more general on what's really specific. And then in our firm, we're talking with each individual about a particular opportunity, about the company, about the location, about the salary level each time we submit them to a firm. And from our perspective, it's very human oriented, just making sure we're trying to make sure they have a diverse pool of people to choose from, whether it's geography, background, even level of skills. Sometimes within, a project manager can go anywhere from 5 years to 25 years. So do you want, we kind of try to give them a cornucopia of options for their company and what they feel like might fit in the best that way. Experience level and project level and that kind of thing.
I personally have used Jessica's resources in the past, as our company has, and I would say if you're not submitted your resume to them, you're missing out. So really resourceful. They know how to search for people, and like she said, if we're looking for a very specific round peg kind of, it's going to be very efficient. And I think companies pay for that, so candidates don't pay for that, right? Just encourage
Yeah,
people to do
correct.
it.
It's free for all job seekers. Yeah.
We do have another question in the chat from Charles. He noted that he graduated recently in a different field but has passion about GIS and learned it through outside of his profession through open sources. He's wondering about accessing opportunities to learn and be certified in order to find a job in GIS. So if anyone has thoughts on, what kind of resources to just get that kind of certification and get your foot in the door in that regard.
I would say to definitely start with some of the resources on Esri's website. It's a good landing page, a good starting page to see what they offer, and utilize as much of that as you can. In addition, there's other ways into the space. That you, like Jessica was mentioning earlier, some particular positions, maybe traveling, or if you're willing to reload, anything like that. Additionally, network, just like you're doing here, network, ask people what you can do, how they got into the field, any advice they can impart for you. You would be surprised. This is a profession that loves to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're starting to see conferences again. I don't know if they're back to normal levels, but they are coming back, and there may be some in your area. Community colleges are also a great resource, particularly for some GIS certificate programs, at least in the US. I think you may be outside the US, but I here for those communities, there's definitely some programs there to look into.
For those who are in the intermediate or later stages of a professional career, even early on, ERISA has a certification, a GISP certification, this GIS professional certification. It takes into account a variety of things, training, education, number of years of work, type of projects they work on, and it's a 5-year certification. As when we hire people and for the intermediate to senior level positions, and they tend to be for GIS, we do value certifications and academic attainment as well. So so there's ways to get certifications through academic field or through professional organizations. So I would recommend the GISP. For me is very good. I did it like now, I guess maybe 8 years ago. And I find that people who have gone through these processes have organized themselves and value their profession as geospatial folks. So I would say that's how an interviewer or a resume selector will be valuing it as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys sharing those things, and actually it's a good segue to share some information. I'm part of the ESRI Partner Advisory Council. I'm one of the committee chairs for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so working closely with them, both the things internally as well as the partner community is really the focus. But we're hoping to have influence in the entire industry, and on the other side, they are looking to be executive sponsors of EDGE and are very supportive of what we're doing here. And we're looking to do a number of things at the user conference this summer. Clinton, I don't know if you can share a little bit about the things that people can look forward to at the user conference, as well as anything from the ERISA side, since you're kind of representing a couple of hats here as not only an ESRI associate, but the head of an organization that you can talk about, and then also you have some leadership within ERISA. I'm putting you on the spot, Clinton, so I don't know if you can jump in on that, or also Heidi, if you want to share a little bit.
Yeah, I think Clinton's sharing some things in the chat on the front, so I think he's got a few things there.
Yeah, I know that Esri and Clinton have put together the what's called North Star. It is also there is for there's obviously the women in GIS. There's various sociological segments. I would say the Blacks in GIS organization that's part of that's extended part of the EDGE-inar North Star approach. I think if you're from one of those communities, I would say join them, participate in them when you get to the conference. But I think it all has to also come to where you are physically and locally. So finding those local conferences, local opportunities is going to be very important as you start if you haven't gone down that journey yet. But if you're in the journey already a geospatial analyst, I think it's about getting the kind of work you want to be doing. So that's a slightly different conversation.
Yeah, if you all can, I wasn't sure my mic was working. But if you all could hear me, I'll chime in a bit about what some of the things that will go on at the Esri User Conference this year. So the past few years, there have been women in GIS focused conversations, and then more recently, to Garame's point, North Star and Blacks in GIS coming together to create some space. And now, in addition to Women in GIS and North Star and Blacks in GIS presenting a special interest group meetup for people of African descent, there will also be meetups for people who identify in the Asian, Daisy, and Pacific Islander communities, folks who identify as Latin American. And I think there's also going to be a special interest group meetup for people from the broad range of the LGBTQIA plus spectrum and experiences. We'll also host meetups, and many of us will be meeting up early during the conference. There's always that experience that women and people from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups will experience when you get to a big conference like the UC. You're excited to be there. It's connecting with your interests, your passions, and then you feel something else, that bit of exclusion or a bit of isolation when you don't see other people who look like you. So we want to connect early and often with people through the conference and beyond. So be on the lookout for daily opportunities to meet up, some special interest group meetings that connect with different identities, and some socials after the event, but also a lot more things that North Star, Blacks in GIS, and EDGE and the other groups will come together to put together to help to increase inclusion and belonging in GIS.
Appreciate that, Clinton. And as part of EDGE, one of our missions is to be inclusive in everyone being a part of the solution. And so we're hoping everyone can come to the table, network, share ideas, just build a rapport, because we believe this is not just an issue of various communities. This is an issue for all of us to tackle, and it affects all of us. And we can all either be a part of the solution or continue to exacerbate the issues that we have. And I think that I'd like to just ask about any third-party tools or any other things that you guys are aware of that help to make the right connection.
There's a EURISA Vanguard cabinet here, and I think there's someone who's a member of that. So I can't remember his name right now. Josiah is actually a Vanguard cabinet, and it's around the kinds of things we're talking about. So I would say if you're able to join the EURISA Vanguard cabinet or participate in some of these agnostic, non-specific software organizations, it's just as good as join some of the organizations and or communities that are very particular. I would say, though, I think our ultimate goal is for people not to, for people of all diversities having access to quality jobs, right, at the end of the day. So any which way you can get in front of people who are hiring by having a good quality resume, a good networking and communication. One of the things that we look for, and has become a very important hiring consideration for us, is written communication skills, verbal and written, especially well-organized written communications are very important in GIS and any other field. So I would say you can highlight and show that you have those backgrounds with GIS, that's a great combination.
I would definitely say as far as tools, third parties, I mean, it's nothing new, but LinkedIn. A lot of recruiters are going to be hanging out on LinkedIn. There's several groups that you can follow and pay attention to where job postings will populate your feed automatically. So don't underestimate LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And as Jamie mentioned earlier, this is a very helpful community. The reason we love working within geospatial is because of the people. And many times you'll send a message to someone on LinkedIn that's either in a job that you would like to do, and they will communicate with you in terms of how they got there. And I think it's an excellent resource. Just to throw it out there, we also offer free resume reviews, and we're also able to chat with folks who are actively looking for a job and kind of get an idea of what have been your obstacles, what have been your experiences, because we do like to try to knock those down as we can.
That's awesome. And I would highly recommend each of you to post on our LinkedIn group any of these ideas and organizations and tools. And also I welcome the entire community to do the same. And at EDGE, our goal is not to try to reinvent the wheel and do everything that a lot of great organizations and folks that are doing. We're just trying to be a one-stop shop for people who have this common interest of DEI and geospatial community to be able to go to one place, one website, one LinkedIn group, just get a wide range of information to really expand their network and to kind of fill this gap or this void that we have where there are a lot of people who want to do the right things. It's just not so easy to always do it because we're not as networked or connected, and it's not a technology issue. It's really just a people issue and a simple business problem that we're trying to solve. So we welcome as many organizations who have common interests and alignment to be a part of what we're doing, and we're going to be very supportive of making sure people are aware of the great things that they're doing. So as we kind of close from our side of asking questions, we'll open it up to everyone else to ask some questions, but I want to get one kind of final thought from each of the panelists in terms of, where do you feel like we are in this moment of time? Obviously, 2 years ago, things changed dramatically. What happened with George Floyd, I think, caused a lot of people to contemplate and be more introspective and be more honest and candid about where things have gone in this country. And at EDGE, that is our focus is trying to keep us from getting to that level of frustration again and doing what we can do within the geospatial industry. Just want to get each of your thoughts about kind of where we are in this moment of time. Are we getting to a place where people are starting to be desensitized again? What should we be thinking about as industry folks who do care about this and are kind of caught in this interesting time frame? Jamie, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I'm seeing across the board companies really trying to work with people. As we know, pandemic did not treat everyone equally. And that went kind of in both directions. Some people who really needed to be at home and be with, children or be, caring for people or whatever. And then others who could not be there and yet they were kind of forced to be there, but they weren't in a situation where it was an easy thing to work from home. So I think most of the I know all of the organizations we're working with are trying to be very considerate of that, very open to ideas. But there's always obstacles too with some of the business processes that they have. So I think just being open to hearing people's obstacles and being available for change, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a hard question. There's not an easy answer for it, Keith. But I think we have a long ways to go. But post-pandemic, to Jessica's point, it has created some flexibility that we did not see prior to that. We're also finding, our clients are a lot more flexible and accommodating, which is allowing contractors and professional services companies to be more accommodating as well. So we're able to offer a lot of flexibility, you know, whether that's schedule or part-time or what have you, to achieve our work than we really didn't have before. So that's very encouraging.
I would like to just to add that in terms of part of the problem with diversity and inclusion and why it's still a big problem is it's about access to things like what we're doing here with a virtual conference. People who may not have otherwise been able to travel to some place, or these conferences are in places that are not easily accessible to the diversity and inclusion impacted community. I'm looking forward to continuing to do more virtual things so that people can continue to have access to these conversations, opportunities, and they could center around more specific, maybe specific subsegments of GIS, how to do X, or who's doing what where kind of conversations. But I think waiting just for conferences is going to be going back to some of the same problems we had before. I'm really pro virtual as well.
Yeah, I appreciate all of that. And one thing I'd like to share is another part of what we're about at EDGE is education. And we know that a big part of this challenge is this is kind of white space in terms of a lot of people not really understanding the dynamics of these issues. They don't even know what they're doing sometimes, or what they're saying, or their practices within their organization are detrimental to what they profess to want to be about. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do, is have these EDGE-inars as well as other things out there. And again, we encourage people on the LinkedIn site to share articles, to just help everyone to be educated. And ultimately, we're going to try to develop a standard within the industry so that companies who really want to be about the work of DEI can demonstrate their commitment to building that level of understanding and competence, and can show that through their actions, they're consistent with what they say they want to be about. Clayton, again, I'm going to throw you back in here. Can you talk a little bit more about what are some of the kind of things that people miss when we're talking about these issues, and what are some areas where you're involved? I know you're helping us with that standard that we're trying to set, but you just share a little bit more your thoughts on that topic.
Yeah, I think probably a number of people on the call today have talked about a lot of these things between Eva and Jessica and Jeremiah and other folks, recognizing, I think that the big thing is to understand that there are systemic barriers that may perhaps outside of your organization's control that are impacting different communities differently. And so when we recognize that that's a thing, that women in general are experiencing a broad range of barriers and opportunity from the time they are kids until the time they are trying to get into the GIS community, people from the various racial and ethnic groups likewise, and that those things are different, that our organizations have opportunities to in some ways it's sort of binary, either to dig in, invest differently, and find ways to close those gaps, or inadvertently not dig in and become a part of growing those gaps. So considering those systemic issues, all that includes, and then doing things with that awareness, like closing those access gaps, taking things virtual, finding those spaces where people are likely to feel isolation or not be included, coming to conferences and engaging, making more inclusive, making sure there's more inclusive language around your job posting, your marketing. When you build a team that sort of represents your organization, considering what that team looks like at all times, counting the room and making sure that people are there. And being careful about how we use the language, right? So what do we mean when we say diversity? We want to sort of assess the difference in a group, but we don't want to suddenly call people diverse and amplify their difference in a potentially harmful way. I think EDGE has an idea that's similar to a bunch of the other ideas that we've all had, and maybe EDGE is a great opportunity to connect all these things. So all of our groups continuing to be networks of networks, and extending our resources across each other, creating opportunities like this to collaborate and talk, and trying to avoid more of sort of the one-off engagement, right? So I really love that, you know, you've pulled together this group of speakers who are talking about this stuff from a variety of vantage points. And, you know, let's just keep trying to do more of this, and corral all of our influence and efforts to have a greater impact across this edge.
I think that's a great way to close. Thank you so much for that, Clinton. And
Yeah.
we know that there's probably some more questions, and there's so much to talk about. So with that being said, please take it to the LinkedIn group. Feel free to throw your questions there. Some of them we might look to folks to answer directly, or give us suggestions of new topics and new things we can discuss in future EDGE-inars. Our goal is to get to the place where we have one of these once a month. We're at least doing them quarterly now. But this is a conversation that needs to happen in an intentional way, in an ongoing way. So thank you everyone for coming and participating. Carolyn and Heidi, I'll let you kind of close things up with any other logistics or announcements.
Yeah. I just wanted to reiterate that, yes, there were a few questions that we didn't get a chance to get to in the interest of time, but definitely, as Keith mentioned, please keep the conversation going, and we will plan on hosting additional events, and you know, hopefully have some more good discussions that we can all share our experience and knowledge. And I think this chat has been amazing. I've sat in on so many different webinars over the last couple of years, and I love this chat because there's so much going on, and so much information sharing. So thank you to everyone for participating. And we will be announcing, as Keith mentioned, with our EDGE website, with the job board and the various things that'll be entailed there. We will be announcing that as soon as possible, and hope that if you are a business owner, that you sign up with a business, or if you're a job seeker or know people who are job seekers, encourage them to post on there as well.
Yeah, and just a couple more things. We are looking to have another EDGE-inar in June to kind of help us launch into the UC as well, to share some awesome information that you don't want to miss. So stay tuned. We should have that date locked in and give you more details on that. Maybe Carolyn, you can share a little bit about that. And then other piece I would say is that please share this. We are recording it, so we'll share the link. So share with others who could not make it today. And then if we can all do our part to invite as many people as possible, join in on this conversation, to join EDGE, to just do their part in the awareness and sharing. So Carolyn, you want to quickly talk about the content of the next one, and then we'll close it?
Yeah, we don't have a date set yet, but that one will be kind of it'll be geared, as Keith mentioned, towards people that are attending the UC, kind of a who's who of the various DEI groups that'll be present, and some of the ESRI resources that'll be there. So once we have a date set for that, we will definitely announce that and encourage folks to join in. Even if you aren't planning on attending the UC, there will probably be still some valuable information there about groups that you can reach out to. I saw that there were a lot of questions about, you know, what are the resources? So this will be an EDGE-inar focused on, you know, kind of who's who and who's going to be involved and who's going to have a presence at the UC. So. Yeah, with that, I don't think I have any other announcements right now, unless Keith, you have anything final, but other than to say thank you again very much to everyone for joining. And we hope that you'll all join our LinkedIn group, or sign up for one of our, for doing the survey, and sign up for one of our subcommittees if you're interested. And thank you again. Have a great afternoon.
And
thank you to all of our panelists. Yes, thank you very much, all of our panelists.
Thank you.
And we'll make
That's
sure to read their
wonderful.
contact information if you want to follow up with any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.